Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into the digital arcade of the future and breaking down how SuperStake actually works. If you follow digital economies or crypto gaming, you've probably heard the name before. But in this video, we're going to look under the hood and see what the official docs say is powering the whole platform. We'll walk through the infrastructure, the user experience, and the systems that keep everything running. To really understand SuperStake, we need to start with one big question. What exactly is SuperStake? At first glance, it might look like a slick platform for digital games, loot boxes, and rewards. But once you dig deeper, it's actually a pretty advanced ecosystem. It mixes game mechanics, DeFi-style systems, cryptography, and even AI to create a new kind of gaming experience. Here's how we'll break it down. First, we'll talk about the basic SuperStake experience. Second, we'll look at the SuperStake economy. Third, we'll get into how the platform builds trust. And finally, we'll talk about the Creator Studio. All right, part one. Welcome to SuperStake and the user experience. So, what does a new user actually see when they jump in? The SuperStake handbook acts like a full guide to the platform. You've got games like Grid Run, along with daily quests and points that help you progress. But what really stands out is the transparency. You can track your overall RTP, or return to player, right inside the platform. You also get things like token swaps and referrals built in. So you're not just logging in and playing a few games. You're managing a full digital profile inside a structured gaming economy. Now let's move on to part two. The SuperStake economy. What keeps the whole thing running? Now that we've got a feel for the gameplay, let's talk about the fuel behind the platform. That fuel is SuperStake credit, or SSC. SSC is basically your main balance on the platform. What makes it easier to get started is that SuperStake uses a hybrid onboarding system. In other words, you don't have to jump straight into crypto if you're not ready. You can top up with a regular fiat card, or you can use cryptocurrency if that's your preference. The platform also offers deposit bonuses from time to time. But as anyone who's used digital gaming platforms knows, bonuses usually come with a few conditions. And that's where withdrawals can get a little more complicated. If you've been around online gaming platforms before, you already know the deal. Bonuses usually have strings attached. SuperStake handles this by splitting your SSC into two main buckets. First, there's locked credit. That's credit with restrictions on it. It's usually connected to bonuses, and you can't withdraw it right away. You have to meet certain platform requirements first. Then there's withdrawable credit. That's the cleared balance. It's available to cash out and isn't locked behind bonus conditions. Knowing the difference between these two balances is really important if you want to use the platform responsibly. But this brings up a much bigger question. It's the question any smart player should ask when using a digital casino, loot box system, or online gaming platform. How do you know the game isn't rigged? When everything is digital, what stops the code from simply deciding that you lose? To answer that, we need to get into part three, the mechanics of trust, or what's happening under the hood. To show users they aren't being cheated, SuperStake uses zero-knowledge proofs, also called ZK proofs, to support what it calls provable fairness. That's a big step away from the old just trust us model. A simple way to think about it is this. Imagine proving you know the combination to a safe without actually saying the numbers out loud. That's the basic idea behind zero-knowledge proofs. For SuperStake, this helps with two key things. First, the game outcome is unpredictable while the game is live. Neither you nor the platform knows the result ahead of time. Second, and more importantly, the result can be checked afterward. That means the platform can prove mathematically that things were handled fairly, without having to reveal all of its private back-end code. So instead of trust based on promises, it's trust based on math. Let's make that more practical with something like a loot box. SuperStake uses a step-by-step system called a commit-reveal scheme. Step 1. The system commits to the game state before you open the loot box. That means the platform locks in certain information ahead of time, so it can't just change the odds at the last second. Step 2. Blockchain randomness gets added to finalize the result. Because blockchain data is public and can't easily be changed, that randomness is much harder to mess with. Step 3. You can check the result yourself. You don't just have to take the platform's word for it. You can rerun the math and verify the proof behind your loot box result. What's really interesting is how SuperStake brings this same trust model into automated gameplay. That's where Moonshot comes in. Moonshot gives you client-side automation. Basically, you set your own parameters and the system carries out actions for you locally on your machine. But the key thing is this. Even when gameplay is automated, it still follows the same provably fair standards as manual gameplay. So you can automate parts of the experience without giving up cryptographic verification. That's a pretty clever setup. Now, let's move to the final section, Part 4, the Creator Studio. So what happens when a platform takes all of this technology, the economy, the cryptography, the games, and hands some of that creative power over to users? That's where the Creator Studio comes in. You don't need to be a software engineer to build your own branded game. The Creator Studio lets you create a game without writing code. How? You talk to a conversational AI studio agent. You describe the look, feel, and mechanics you want in plain, everyday language. Then the AI helps turn that idea into a branded game experience. And because it's built on SuperStake's infrastructure, the game automatically gets the same provably fair systems behind it. That includes the ZK proofs and commit reveal mechanics we talked about earlier. So in a way, you get to create your own game backed by the platform's fairness technology. That's a pretty big deal. This changes the way we think about digital gaming. We've gone from simply playing games to taking part in a transparent digital economy, to using AI to create our own cryptographically secure games in minutes. So here's the big question to leave you with. If the barrier to entry is basically gone, and you can build a provably fair game just by describing it to an AI, what would you create on SuperStake? Think about it. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive. Hopefully this gave you a clear and easy to follow look at how SuperStake works.